There was a smell. We didn't know where it was coming from. There's only one area I didn't search, and that was the baby's room. We moved the crib out. The crib was back up to a receptacle, and that receptacle was a receptacle that wasn't being used, but it was a backstab receptacle continuing a load that was getting extremely hot. Frills on that crib were charred.
You have to go in every room. You can't just go by what the customer, no, you don't need to go in there. No, I have to go in there. This is part of my diagnostic.
Where was the GFI that you did see?
In the bathroom. They had 2 there that failed. I even showed them like, hey, I can't reset it. And I even put the voltage tester. I'm like, look, you're reading 120. But on this side, you're reading nothing.
That was a great recommendation.
Once we were done with the panel rejuvenation and redevicing the house, pigtailing everything instead of backstabbing.
So we did a full redevice, pigtailed every device, put devices in there with screw terminals, so we got another robust connection there. Installed new GFCI protection where needed, did a full panel rejuvenation, replacing all the breakers, doing a full makeup, retorquing everything down to factory specs.
It's funny because like I thought me and Marcus were going to take a little bit longer at that job, because when we would start taking apart the switches, and the way they did the switches back then was, the way they did the hots was they'll wrap it around the first switch, then they'll take it, wrap it around another switch, and then take it, wrap around the third switch. So you're on a 3-gang, and you got this, the power that's going through each individual switch.
Yeah, we got the 18 though, you and Marcus.
It was the Asian persuasion team. We had to pigtail a lot more than what we needed to. And the house was a pretty decent sized one.
It's not a bad one. I mean, you're eliminating a connection. You don't have, you're eliminating a splice.
The problem is if that first switch fails, the connection points there failed. And
we used to loop the same thing, and we just felt it was robust. They don't do that today.
They did that with the screws, but everything else was backstab. And it was crazy with the backstab devices. We'll pull it out and we'll just go tick, tick, and all the wires just pop out.
Yeah.
And you see all the scorch line. It was almost like a ring on a tree. It was flawless to where at the end, we didn't have to troubleshoot at all.
We got the call because breakers are tripping.
Some of the areas weren't working anymore.
That's exactly why manufacturers recommend that their breakers be replaced between 15 and 25 years. When they do go bad, they can go bad and take other things out with them. The thing with electricity, when something goes wrong, as you know, it could be a fire. I mean, you and I both come from the restoration industry, where we've walked a lot of homes that have had fires in them. Can electricity cause a fire if it's not maintained? Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good feeling to have. I'm not a superhero, but sometimes when I leave a customer and everything works and everything is fine and the wire didn't get cooked up the wall. We had that incident too, where the wire did actually cooked up the wall.
Yeah.
And we had to cut it out and re-junction it at that location.
Turn the switch on, the light works, we plug something in, it works, and we don't call an electrician until something happens. And by then, sometimes it's too late.
That saying from, my parents and my grandparents and stuff, if it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
That does not apply to electrical. It does not apply. Because it could end really badly. I remember doing a whole house redevice where this gentleman, he had a breaker trip on this circuit, and the only thing he had plugged up was a little small space heater, and that space heater was pulling around 7 amps, right? Nothing else on that circuit, but it was tripping the 15 amp breaker, breaker, but he did have backstab receptacles, all right? So I had to explain to him, I showed him his heater on how many amps it pulled. And I'm like, do you understand that when you have backstab receptacles and it's arcing across, it's actually pulling more amps than what the breaker can handle? And your equipment is trying to pull 7 amps at 120 volts. If that voltage drop, it's gonna try to pull more amps to get that 120, because it's the math thing. Basic information that we take for granted sometimes. I feel sometimes that not a lot of electricians understand that.
That's why we're in the industry we are. We don't build new homes. We work on existing homes to make sure they're safe. Yeah. But I wish more people understood that. I told you the story about the service call I went on years ago, where there was a smell. We didn't know where it was coming from. I searched and searched and searched in this house, and there's only one area I didn't search, and that was the baby's room. And so I said, I have to go in here and look in here. I said, this is part of this circuit. We moved the crib out. The crib was back up to a receptacle, and that receptacle was a receptacle that wasn't being used, but it was a backstab receptacle continuing a load that was getting extremely hot. And the frills on that crib were charred. They could have caught fire any time.
Yeah.
And no one would have known until it was too late. It's one of the reasons why I'm really an advocate of redevicing homes that are backstab receptacles and really keeping the maintenance of the electrical system up to date. Because when something goes wrong, you don't know when it's going to go and how it's going to go or where it's going to go wrong.
You have to go in every room. You can't just go by what the customer, no, you don't need to go in there. No, I have to go in there. I have, this is part of my diagnostic, and I think there's been one customer that didn't allow me full access to the house and just wanted me to flip the breaker back on and just fix instead of going through the house and checking. And I had to go, sorry, I have to go through my full process of everything. I have to check all the plugs and all the switches that are on that circuit. I have to gain access to that room.
That's a good call.
And he actually denied me. And I'm like, I cannot just go and turn on your breaker and just fix what I can gain access to.
Yeah, that's a good call, and that's the right call. It's hard to explain to them. Like, when it stops working is usually when you have a problem or you waited too long.
I actually use the car tire oil change and spark plug things all the time, where I'm like, hey, do you drive your car until your check engine light comes? Well, some people do that, huh?
A lot of people do, but I get your analogy.
But you know, you do maintenance on it. You do your oil change, you do your spark plug change, and you do other types of things to keep your car going, right? When you buy your car and you take it off the dealership, the price drops right in half. But yet you maintain that car. You buy this house and this house value goes up, but yet you do not maintain it.
If your toilet's clogged up or your hot and cold water, your hot water's not working, they're going to call a plumber because they can't live with that. But if you have an electrical problem that's not working, they can live without that. They can live without that plug not working, the inconveniences of that, when that component of that system is the most dangerous.
Been on calls where I get there and the customers tell me the plugs are not working, and I'm taking plugs and switches in other location. They're like, no, why are you taking that one apart? You don't need to take that one apart. It's these. I need to take this apart just to see if the makeup is done correctly in here and if this is the problem or not. I actually love it when customers follow me around. I'll tell you everything that I do. I take pictures as I go along, fully transparent.
It's hard when you're an expert in your field trying to explain it in layman's terms and get them to see the picture of it, but a video or a picture would be a great way to kind of explain it.
Zinsco panel, what's your thought on Zinsco panel? What do you...
Before I knew the history of Zinsco panels, I mean, they've had a bad history as long as I've been in the trades, and I've been an electrician for 35 plus years. Back in that day, you heard they're dangerous, right? They don't trip when they need to trip. And that's a problem. They burn bussings, they cause fires. But I didn't know the history on them up until probably within the last 10 years. Yeah. So, my first 20 years in the trade, I rebuilt a lot of Zinsco panels. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to put non-UL parts in panels and fix them. At the time, as someone who knows how to do it safely, you want to save a customer money. And I've replaced hundreds of bussings. I've replaced hundreds of meter jaws, and probably thousands of breakers. So worked on them a lot. But today, I just think they need to go. They're very unsafe. They need to be phased out because homeowners can't insure their houses if they have them. A lot of people don't know that, because when an insurance auditor comes and audits your home and notices you have a Zinsco panel, you have to ask yourself why they will no longer insure your home if you have that panel on your home. I recognized it. They started doing it in Woodland, then Davis, and usually those rules start coming here in the Sacramento area. And when they started doing that, I started changing my mind and my theories on, well, I can fix that. I could save you some money and just patch that together. And then when I started doing some work for some restoration companies and started seeing fires, and some of them were caused by Zinsco panels, there's just no sense in it. It's just not safe for people. It's just time. It's done its job for as long as it has. It's a maintenance item. You got to replace it. You can drive on that tire for so long before it starts becoming unsafe for you and your family to be driving down the road at 65 miles an hour with some tread throwing off the tire and
bubbles
everywhere. I mean, if that blows, it's dangerous. If you have a home with a Zinsco panel, that should be the first upgrade to your home you should make. A lot of people want to add new lighting, add new appliances, add EV chargers, add solar. They want to add all these new conveniences, but the heart of their home is still the Zinsco panel. So my recommendation is always, let's give you a new healthy heart, and then let's build off of that so you're safe.